are 41 parties in conference, including you.
Okay. So our transition to microdata access. So just to give you some first looks, what microdata access is just allowing you to create the custom tabulations using our public use microdata when pre-tabulated data aren't available. So I mentioned in the last session that, hold on, let me make sure I can switch to the next thing. Yeah, mentioned in the last session that we, so that they're able to, so a box that on that all results landing page that you can access the microdata. So that's one of the things. So if you can't find what you're looking for in the tabulated tables, go on over to the microdata access. But I want to kind of give you some reasons why you would use it and some limitations before you jump right on into the tool. So first off, this is microdata access. You can access it on data.census.gov/MDAT. We internally call it MDAT, but as all internal things go, everybody externally.
Mute on.
It's just fine. Just want to make sure you know what we're talking about. And it did replace our Data Ferret in 2019. I don't know how many of you use Data Ferret. It's the same thing. It was a custom tabulation system that allowed you to use our microdata to kind of slice and dice and aggregate and find what you wanted if our tabulated data weren't available. We did decommission it in 2019, or we created the new site to decommission it. We didn't actually decommission it until June 30th of this year. But for the past several years, it's been really hard for people to use because we use Java plugins to build Data Ferret, and most browsers stopped using it. There were just a few people that were still hanging on. By the time we turned out the lights on June 30th, after a couple of years, I can't even imagine how old that Internet Explorer browser they were using, but they were still able to use it. But hopefully those people have kind of jumped on board with microdata access. So we have finished our first development cycle. We've kind of got most of the bells and whistles. There's definitely still things we'd like to add, but we want to be able to then switch over to some other things. So we're also continuing to work on data migration. Now, this is the data that used to be in Data Ferret, somewhere from the subject areas. So that hasn't changed. This is just having the data migrated and to get it into this system. So a couple things, we are planning on working on phase 2, which is an integration with data.census.gov. So for first is to integrate with search. So if someone were to search for poverty, it would be great to have those tables, but then also to have this option to, you know, can't find what you want, what about trying this microdata access to make your own custom tabulations? And then also the code base. So as you'll see, there's some, and I'll point out some differences in the code base. Luckily, they are together, and they're slowly kind of integrating, but that's kind of what we're working on, is to make those two things in line. Excuse me. For some background of what microdata is, when we talk about microdata, we're talking about our PUMS files. And what does it mean when we talk about PUMS files? That is public use microdata. And just breaking down the words, public use means that it's not identifiable, and it's edited to protect your confidentiality. So it's not our full file by any means. It's a very small percent. The last time I saw, I thought it was 1 or 2% of the actual sample, and then so it's very small. So the confidentiality has been protected, and then it's accessible. So we talked about it's available on our site. It's also available through the API because everything on data.census.gov is being pulled from the API. And then it's also available through those FTP sites, like I said. And then microdata. What exactly is microdata? So you're not going to get the tabulations that you're used to. These are individual responses. Someone takes a survey, and this is the individual responses based on each question. And so in order to use it, you have to then tabulate it and weigh it in order to get an estimate that in any way makes sense. So what this does is that obviously you could go in and pull our PUMS data and be able to program this yourself, but this just makes it so you don't have to. You don't have to have a statistical package. You don't have to have R, SPS or SAS. You don't have to have any of those things. That you could just use our tool. All right. So just showing you kind of the difference of what it looks like. If you're looking at, we pulled up a table for 2016 Louisiana, and there's approximately 18,459 males who worked in computer and mathematical occupations. However, if you were looking to find how many males in Louisiana are specifically web developers, this is a great opportunity and reason that you would want to use the MDAT system instead of, or to pull it from Microdata, because it's not, our tabulated tables are not giving you what you want. All right, so there's some give and take to that. You definitely will not find this available at your track level. So there's only a few levels available. Generally speaking, it's, nation and state. And some PUMAs someplace. There's also region and division, but not as used as much. And PUMAs are something we'll talk about in just a minute. It's about 100,000 population. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then that was for the ACS. For the CPS, it's nation and state, and then some counties, depending on what file you're looking at. All right. So I'm sure Heidi would be much better equipped to answer this than me, but this is what a PUMA is in just general kind of terms to have an idea that it's an area defined about 100,000 population. It can be, it's typically centered around metro areas and cities, and that's kind of how it's defined. I'll show you that in the drop downs in MDAT, but not always. They're typically they're 5-digit codes. They're unique to each state, and then it's nested, and that's important to know. Not only is it the building blocks of tracts and counties being used, but also it's nested within state and covers the entire nation. And these are redefined after every decennial. So selecting PUMAs, so how you select them, you can select them in our drop-down. I'll show you that has the fully qualified name to it. And then also you can visualize it through Tiger Web Services. That gives you more of a spatial look at all of the PUMAs, and then you can drill down and figure out which one you're looking for. So kind of two options from there. So just going over, just as a reminder, some of the basics. You only use this tool to create tabulations if pre-tabulated census tables are not available. And it's only for the larger geographies, states, and PUMAs for about 100,000 people. And that this is, I think, the important part, is that it really does create tables on the variable level. So this is very confusing to a lot of people, especially if you're used to our tables and going around. It's not the same. It's based on the variables that then create the tables. So having a data dictionary or something from the program area to give you more information about those variables is really, really helpful, those definitions. A lot of the questions that we have are just variable questions that we're trying to go through. All right, so I'm going to have a series of 4 examples that I'm going to go through, and then we'll kind of go back and forth from here again. So the first thing is the example is the number of female Hispanics and the Hispanic population of 50 and over in Oregon. So my first step is that we're going to go to an age and sex table for Hispanic or Latino for Oregon, and we're going to pick up and see if they have a variable. So they have for females, and they have Hispanic for Oregon, and then the age breakdown, it's not 50 and over. We've got 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64, so we don't have 50 plus. A great reason to use the site. So let me, oops, and then here's all the, I'm going to try to, sorry, there's a tiny speaker tab, and it's it throws me every time. So 1 second. Move over here and get to our place. Okay. So you go to in that microdata site by being on data.census.gov. You can get there a couple of ways. You could do data.census.gov/MDAT. It'll take you directly there. Or you could scroll down our landing page, and I'll show you that next time. So the first landing page, the first thing you have to do is you really have to be data set specific. All the variables are data set specific, so you have to go in and choose your data set in the vintage, which is typically speaking the year. Okay, so from here are your options in the download. So you have 1 year for the PRCS as well as the ACS. Then you have the CPS and the different variables from there, and then all these different supplements that are available. I'm just going to make it easy and use the 1 year ACS. And here are all the years that are available for that data set. We only have 2018 available. Even though 1 year estimates are released from ACS, they don't release the PUMS file for 1 year until October. So after its release, we'll be able to have this included in our site. So from here, I'm just going to use these basic ones, show you how to do it. One of the really big things with this site is just to be able to go in and play with it. I'm going to show you some examples on some typical ways to use it, but really it's going to be up to you to kind of go in and start kind of learning it yourself and playing around. And I think you might like it a lot. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. So I'm very pleasantly surprised. All right. I think I was one of those Data Ferret users, so it was hard for me to let go too. So I'm actually really liking this, so it helps. Okay, so this is our main category and what we have to do. So the first thing we need to do is select a variable, and there's a couple of ways to do it. So when you think of the variable, you have to go with your question. So that's why it's always nice to have this example. The example was female Hispanic population 50 or over in Oregon. So the first things we need to do is that we have to find the Hispanic variable. So if you know the variable, which is HISP, you could type it there. Not everybody knows that. Not a lot of people know that. But you could type in the variable name and see if it comes up. I typed Hispanic. Hispanic recode came up, has 24 values in it. I'm going to ask for the details, and it looks exactly like what I think I want. So it has the value of all of the components that make up Hispanic. Perfect. That's what I want. So I'm going to click on this, and it populates my data cart right here. Unfortunately, it hasn't right yet had a chance to add in the filter. It's part of what I think we need to build and add to it to where it populates right here. But just know that it has been added, and you can see that number rising when you add stuff. Okay, so we also want to get age. So age is sitting right here, so we're going to go from there. Or, you could type it in the variable or the label. And this shows that it's a string variable. So when I click on it, it actually does it throws a caution message because a lot of people are not aware that you have to recode it. You have to do a recode. So that's what this is trying to say. But that's fine. I'm going to show you how to do it. Do not worry. All right. So age, and then now we need to have sex. So there's age and sex, and it pulls up the topics that are under age and sex. There's just a couple of ways to do this. And so I've added sex with age, and I have Hispanic all in this data cart right here. So I'm going to select my geographies, and you go here, and there's not very many options because there's not that many summary levels available in a PUMS file. But I'm going to select state. I'm going to go down to Oregon. I click on that. And if you notice, the chip does populate there. So you have to know that it's there, but then also right here in your data cart are where your variables are going to be sitting. Okay, hopefully that'll get cleaned up a little bit in a future build, but just know how to use it now. Okay. So from here, I'm going to show you what you need to do. So I'm going to skip age. I'm going to go to the least complicated ones. So for Hispanic, it has all of the components that I want for just a Hispanic total, except for this one, which is not Hispanic. So I'm going to actually uncheck it. You don't have to create a custom group just for that, but now that it'll be saved since I clicked on it. So I do want, for the sex variable, I do want male and female to populate. And now I'm going to go to age and look at the age recode. So from here, I'm going to create a custom group. And then I'm going to click on the age group, and I'm going to put 50, I'm going to use this scroll bar to go all the way up to 50. And then it's top coded at 99, so that's just fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and save the group. And then it's going to show you here what your values are. So I'm going to edit, so it's 50 to 99, but I'm actually just going to call it 50 plus because I want my table to look like that. Save the group. And I'm going to go ahead, and this is my remainder, so I'm going to put under 50. And save the group. So you're just changing the labels for right here. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have to do for there. So I've defined my variables, and now I'm going to go to table layout. Now the table will give you just an automatic layout, and it's not necessarily right, it's not necessarily wrong. It's however you want to do it, but the good news is that you can customize it. So being a child of the Census Bureau, I always want my columns to be my selected geographies. So I am going to move that over and have the selected geographies be in the columns, and you can see that. But then I'm going to move sex down to the rows. And then I'm actually going to move age up to the rows and move Hispanic not on table, because I really just want Hispanic to be part of my universe. I want anyone who's Hispanic and anyone who's in Oregon and then crossed by these certain things, certain traits of age and then male, female. So I look at my count, I look at my table, I feel good about that's what I want. Now, the values of the cells, if you click on the average, it'll give you the average, like a median average. If you click on count, I want the numbers. So I'm going to go over here and click View Table. And then from here, it shows you the vintage, your data set. It allows you to change a data set if you want to, or change your geography. It shows you what weight was automatically applied. You can go in there and change it, but the suggestion is to use a person weight because it's a person level file that you're using, but it does give you those options. And then it shows you what variables you have. You know, you have sex and your age recode in the rows. Your column is your geography. Not on table is Hispanic, meaning it's part of the universe. And then here's your value option, your original value that you went in and did a recode on. And that's all you have to do. And then from here, 50 plus, there's 42,632 an estimate of women, Hispanic population, women 50 and over in Oregon. All right, now I'm going to go to another example. Back to microdata is another way to clear things to see it. And then I'm going to go to my next question. So sorry, I'm going to kind of fumble through this to try to get to our next question. So I put all of our slides so that you can go back and reference all of this. And we like lots of different slides. So from here, The next question is work from home by detailed industry in Oregon. And this is a great example of how you can really explore the data going in and looking at this. So from here, the first thing I'm going to do is to check the work from home by industry table, B08126. And it shows you all of the breakdown, but it's the high-level breakdown. I think it's the top, 8, I think, of the industries that they have available. But that's not what I want. I want detailed industry for work at home. So again, great reason to go in and use the microdata analysis system. So going back to this main thing, the main landing page of the MDAT, and again, you can choose what you want. If you wanted a more robust file, if you wanted, it's not going to make the estimates necessarily larger because you're not, everything that's available for 1 year is available for 5 years, but you just have a more robust file to get more precise estimates from if you were to use the 5-year or from a different year. But I'm just going to stick and use the same one, and then I'm going to click next, and it's the same thing. I'm back down to my same variable table where I can go in and check. So the first thing that I want to do is do an industry. So I'm going to look through my topics, and I'm going to go to employment and see what's there. So that's one thing. That's not really hitting to what I want for industry. So I'm going to go ahead and see where industry is. So it really does give you some drop down. So you might want to go in and just check. So choosing the industry, it gives me the 2 recodes that are available. It looks like actually these are the same recodes, the industry recode for 2018 and later based on 27 industry codes, and then the NAICS codes. They both have the number of values at 271, so I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. But I'm looking, and this is what I wanted. I wanted the NAICS recode for all of industry, so I'm going to go ahead and click that, and it populates up here at the data cart. And then the next thing I wanted was work from home. Now, this is a little tricky because most people do not think of work from home as being a commuting variable. And even further from that, most people think of things as commuting as maybe not even necessarily employment, although if you really thought about it, you would say that it was, but it doesn't always hit people right away that commuting is an employment variable. And then on top of that, we actually at the Census Bureau don't even call it commuting. We call it journey to work. It's slightly different kind of definition than commuting itself. So all of those things, reason why a journey to or a data dictionary is always helpful. But if you go in here and just put work from home, it's not going to come up. So what about commuting? And that didn't come up. So I'm going to do just work. Oh, you know what? It's because the industry is still here. Oops, let me pull out of that. All right, let's try work again. So this at least gives you all of the work time variables, and you can look through and kind of figure out what you were looking for. Again, if you had a data dictionary, it'd be a lot easier, but at least the things are available here, so if you want to do some exploration, this is a perfect example of when you can do that. So go in and you can see time of arrival, time of departure for work, the travel time to work, if you want those medians, and then usual hours worked, CAL, which is our class of worker, or transportation to work. Now, I'm going to check that out because, again, most people don't think of work from home as being a commuting variable, but it is. So I'm scrolling down through railroad, ferry, taxi cab, bicycle, walked, and then here number 11 is worked at home. So that's the variable I want, and I'm going to check on it. And then let me see, it's work from home by detailed industry in Oregon. All right, so I'm done with the variables. So I'm going to go to my selected geographies. I'm going to click on Oregon again. See that it's populated. Go to my data cart. Now with this one, I'm actually going to uncheck everything and only check worked at home for my JWTR, which is the journey to work, that commuting, like ways of travel, ways of commuting. So I'm going to click on that. And then the next one, because I am doing more of an exploration of the data, I'm actually just going to keep everything here because I really don't know what industry has more work from home. Now, just remember, this was before COVID, and when so many more people were working from home, that's not what this is including. This is people that truly do work from home. Not sure what it would be. It probably wouldn't be so much retail, but who knows? But I'm going to go ahead and check and look and see what happens for Oregon. So I'm going to go to my table layout and do exactly the same thing. I'm a creature of habit. I'm going to put selected geographies up in the columns. I'm going to put journey to work actually as the sample because I only want people who are journeying to work. Hold on. Or excuse me, I only want people that are work from home. And then if I look, this looks like what I want. I have Oregon right here in the column, and all of the rows are all of the individual responses. So from here, I look, and it gives me journey to or work at home. I look, and it shows count, and now I'm going to view the table. And if I look, there's going to be a lot. It's 151,470 people who do work from home in Oregon, and then all of these areas where maybe there's zeros, coal mining, make sure it makes sense that there's not a lot of people who are coal mining from home, and just going down. And this is a great way, I think, to go in and explore the data, see what areas really do have the ability to work from home, and that could either drive your research or however you're interested in making kind of the data work for you, or kind of defining your research question, I think would be really, really helpful here. So if I go down and I see that a lot of things within even medicine, offices, do allow for work from home, I might want to go back in, and this is when you can scroll up at the top, and where it says customize variables, you can go in and maybe you want to take out everything, and you just want to look at, we saw medicine, right? So let's click on the medicine ones. Maybe if you just wanted to have something a little bit smaller for a table that's a little bit more ingestible, you can click there and then view table, and it pulls up just those industries that you looked at, and then maybe you can really look and say, oh, okay, it makes sense that optometrists, eye surgeons don't work from home, but how interesting all of these other ones really could and do have ability to work from home. Just different ways that you can go in and kind of play with the data. Also, something to show you is this download and share. If you click on this, you can click the CSV file, and you can download it, and then we'll see the export, and you'll see it is fully qualified, but you probably have to do a little playing with the columns to be able to see the full label expression that's available, but it's available, at least you're able to view the download in an Excel. You can also come in and copy this bookmark, and just like the rest of the data.census.gov tables, it's all URL specific. So if you go in and you click on a table and you've defined your geographies and you have that table that you like, you can go ahead, instead of having to do a deep link that you had to do in AFF where so many people didn't, and they would copy the link and it would just be for that table at the national level. But you can go ahead here and copy and paste the URL, and the same thing in data.census.gov for those tables you can do here. So I just copied and pasted, and here's that table again, and actually a nicer format because it's spaced out a little bit more. That's available. Also, from here, it's just a reminder that you can go in and make little changes, just like in data.census.gov, and edit years. As long as those tables still are released and, year after year, and that they're available, you can go in and make some edits to the URL instead of having to use the drop downs if you'd like to, however you'd like to do. But that's really nice to be able to cut and paste and not have to create something. All right. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to the landing page and show you. You scroll down, you see a section with a giant microdata, giant magnifying glass. Words escape me right there. And my magnifying glass, and then it directly takes you to microdata. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So I wanted to show you using CPS actually this week, yesterday, we had the CPS, the March supplement released and made available, so for March 2020. And so I wanted to show you that, using that as an example. Oh, I didn't show you my example, I'm sorry. The next example would be, for this demo, the uninsured people ages 40 and over in the United States. This is something that's very typical of those age breakdowns of the uninsured population that are asked quite regularly at the Census Bureau, especially with the CPS data. So I wanted to show you how we could do that. If you go back, we have already selected CPS data, and then from here, I'm going to do age, and age is already shown, but still I can type in age, and it comes up, and same thing, if you're interested in seeing, yep, it's an age range, and I can do a recode from it for what I need, so I'm going to select that. And then the second one is health insurance coverage. So I'm going to see what variables are available for health insurance. And if I look, it's family amount paid for health insurance premiums. That's not it. Employer offers health insurance. No. Any health insurance coverage last year. Sounds promising. And yes, that's what I'm interested in. Any health insurance coverage last year, either yes or no. So the COV variable, I'm going to choose that. I see that two things are in my data cart. I'm going to go to selected geographies, and this I think that there is a little bug, but they say it's not a bug. I think it needs to be fixed. I want to be able to select nation to know that I'm getting nation, but instead it's just a default. So just know that you're just skipping your geographies because it's giving you nation instead of selecting by state. So a little thing to note when you're going in here so it doesn't drive you crazy. Okay. So I'm going to go and do the same thing I've done before with age. I'm going to create my custom variable. I'm going to go in and pick range, and I'm going to do 40 plus. I'm going to actually go ahead and change my variable since I have it open, and then my group label, and then go ahead and save. It says 40 plus, and then the remainder I'm going to edit and say under 40. Save the group. There's my recode, and then I'm going to COV. So with COV, it actually, I do want to know yes or no, whether you were insured or not insured. But the one thing I don't want, I want to uncheck the infant born after calendar year, because I really want to limit my universe to just people who were present with coverage for the whole year. So from there, go to table layout. And I am going to do the age in the rows. And then even we can kind of mix it up if I wasn't so inflexible about the selected geographies in the column. We can do a yes or no, so whether you're covered or not. We could do it this way, so that might be a way to look at it. You could also switch it around and do, I did the same thing. I did not switch it around. And do rows, and then age being the cover. So whichever way you want to do it. I'm going to do columns, coverage, yes or no. Sure, that looks good to me. Actually going to go in, this is average, and I don't want an average, I want the count. So all looks good. I'm going to go ahead and view the table. It applies the person weight to the March that's needed for the March supplement. And by count, and it says it excludes the infants born after calendar year, and then here are my estimates, my total numbers, and then those that are 40 plus that are not insured are at 10,000 approximately, 10,022,698. Now, please note that there are margins of error that are associated with the PUMS files, or that you can calculate with the PUMS data is more appropriate to say. We don't have that built in yet, and it's actually not even a requirement yet. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to do that, because if we start putting tabulation systems in, then it's very, could quickly get out of control. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. So right now you're not going to be getting your margins of error. If you do need those, please make sure that you don't use the system and that you pull the PUMS data yourself and do the calculations from there. All right, so last one I wanted to show you really quickly. We get lots of questions about poverty and child poverty for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and actually ask the question first. Like by example 4, I'm on the ball. So 1 second. Okay, here we go. Example 4 is poverty by single year of age for children under 18 in the Portland Pumas. So from here, I'm going to go back. I was on data.census.gov. I'm going to scroll down to the magnifying glass of the microdata and click on microdata. It takes me to the site, and I'm going to just go back to ACS using ACS 1 year and click next. And then from here, I'm going to choose some of my variables that I need. So the first one that I need is age, and it's already here. So I'm going to click on it, and it's populated here. The next one is I want to know about whether their poverty status. So I'm going to click on poverty and see that it's the POVPIP. So what that is it's the income to poverty ratio recode. When you pull it down, you can see, so poverty is considered to be between 0 and 100, whether you're in poverty, and anything else is not. So this does show the breakdown. It allows you to have those percentages of 300% of poverty, all of those things. So it is what I'm looking for. But it's also important to note that, again, this is a variable. The question isn't, are you in poverty? The question on the survey is, what is your income? And from there, poverty is calculated based on the threshold. So I'm going to click on this, and I already have my data chart. And then I'm going to go to selected geographies, decide to do Pumas, so I'm going to click on that, go to Oregon. Where did it go? There it went. And then you can have a better view of what those pumas look like. So you can see that some are county-based, some are city-based, and you can just go through. Some are multiple, some are just like this one, Douglas County. And then I'm just going to pull the ones for Portland. You might go in and decide that you don't need all of these, or you actually need more, the county as well, however you want to do it, or a bigger area, whichever way you want to do it. But this is just for an example and pulling these in. Now I'm going to go back to the data cart and choose what I was looking for. So I'm going to do poverty first. And so the first thing I'm going to do is take out NA because we want people within the poverty universe. So I'm going to create a custom group. And then I'm going to choose specifically this slider so that I can do my 0 to 100. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and put in poverty and save the group. And then I'm going to edit the remainder and just put not in poverty. Now you can definitely make these more complicated, but just giving you some idea of how you would work with these variables and how it would use. So the next one is age. So we've got our poverty recode right here, whether you're in or out of poverty. All right, so the next one is the age. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a custom group because I want to have the individual ages 0 to 17 and then 18 and over. So I'm going to create the custom ages. And then the first one I'm actually going to do is to click on this under 1 because I do want to account for the children that are under the year of 1 age. So I'm going to go ahead and click on under 1 and then change my group label from not elsewhere classified because that doesn't help. I'm just going to change it to under 1 year and save the group. And then I'm actually going to go in and I could individually add each one, but I'm going to do an auto group. So I'm going to start at 1 and I'm going to end at 17 with groups of 1 because I wanted single year, and I'm going to auto group. And it shows you how you get each of the individual years. So a nice little feature so you don't have to be opening and, editing each time. All right, so there's poverty by single year under 18. So we've got, and then I can edit this group. This is 18 and over. Save group, under 18. Yep. And then I have my poverty group. Great. All right, so go to table layout. And I'm going to do the same things I normally do. I put my geographies up in the columns. And then with poverty, I'm going to go in and put poverty, I guess, on the rows. And for 1, and then also whether they are in or out, I'm going to put those at top of the age. So you can look and see that not in poverty, and then here's all of the breakdown by age, and then in poverty, 18 plus, and then 1 year and over. So I like the way that that's put up. Again, you can customize it the way that you want. Look at my poverty, what's a part of the universe and what's available. I'm going to go in and do count again, and then view table. Oops. And then from here, by Puma in Portland, it's the number with the number in the poverty threshold with not in poverty and by year, and then in poverty, so under 1 and all of those different numbers from there for the single year. So just want to give you some different ideas. Again, you could go in and customize the variable if you needed to go and do something else, or if you need to go in, you can change the year if you were interested, and then again, go down and do the if you'd like to download the data, those are available too. But I really, really suggest, so that's the end of my examples, but I think the best way is to go in and kind of play with it yourself. You know, like I said, it's very different than going and looking for tabulated tables. You are creating it yourself, so there's a little bit of kind of playing and figuring out how you want a table to look and what variables you're really looking and what your question is to begin with. But I really do hope that you take a look, and I think you will have a little fun with data, maybe even if you didn't anticipate it. But and then the last thing is always to, same thing, same drill. Send us any feedback if you'd like. We definitely would love to hear how you're using MDAT and things that would make your life a little bit easier. Take our survey would be great. We'd appreciate it. I'd love to hear different ways that people could really be benefited by our site, but maybe if something was built or if there are additional features. And please let me know if you have any questions. All right, I think I've done enough talking. I guess, Heidi, if there's, or Charles, if there are any questions, let me know.
So we got a couple. You did address here towards the end of your presentation, the first one, and that was there was a question about could you get margin of error in this tool, and you told us no.
Correct.
That you can't.
Correct.
Okay. And then we also have how does one know that 100 or less is quote unquote in poverty in the microdata? Where is that cited?
It's not in the microdata. It would be in the data dictionary. I was a poverty and income analyst, and so that's how I knew it. But that's kind of underlining and showing you that you really do need guidance for this because you are using at the variable level. So knowing a little bit more about the variable, we can tell you the basic breakout of, what your variable is going to look like when you pull up, what's available or what's the range for age. But you really do need to go to those surveys and find a data dictionary for additional information on those things. But it's an excellent point. This is definitely not for the casual user. You do have to spend a little time and dig down and find some more information. And I see Charles just stuck up the link, I'm assuming, for the data dictionary, so that's great.
Yeah. Thanks, Charles. We don't have any other questions at the moment, so anyone, if you have, while we do have Kameen, if there is anything else that you can think of, if you want to go ahead and put it in the chat. But we did have a compliment, Kameen, which is thanks for all your hard work, and that it was very interesting.
Great. Oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Please let us know if you have any questions. I think you might be surprised at what how long it takes when you start kind of drilling down and start playing with it. Might surprise you.
All right, we got another one, and which was why do we stop the age at 99?
So that's actually a top code. You could find out more information within the data dictionary about that, but we stop it at 99 because it then becomes a complete confidentiality issue. When, I think most of the time, when somebody hits 114, people are aware of it. I know more and more people are hitting 100, so I do wonder if they'll end up expanding that, but that's what it is. It's top coded for confidentiality. So those numbers are included. They just name them as 99, if that makes sense.
And then any hope of a data dictionary in the future?
Like a link to it? Yeah, I think that would be nice. We're trying to kind of just like the other site, we're trying to figure out where we don't want to replicate what other people throughout the Bureau are doing. We'd like to link to it. But I think it would be nice to maybe have some, I know in AFF, they had those little eyes for information. It might be nice to have some little boxes for that. just trying to kind of figure out the best way to do it, especially as we're developing. I'm always very leery of having things old and outdated that don't make sense, and that's one of the reasons for having our resource page, so that we can edit it, and we edit it daily based on releases and that type of thing. And so just trying to figure out the best way to have that. But I think that might be a great way to have maybe an eye, and then just here are data dictionaries for these surveys. I think that's a great idea.
And then it was a follow-up to that. Could it be set up to be generated at the time?
The data dictionary?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. This was the same. Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So if you chose like CPS March 2020 supplement, then you would get a data dictionary or whatever their equivalent is. Maybe a link offered to that. That's a great point. That's a great thing to possibly have that. That'd be nice. Be really nice. It'd save us, and we get more. I thought that there were going to be more questions of just how to use MDAT, but we've got some great tutorials and how-tos under this reference page that it's actually, once we send people to it, they're pretty okay with how to access it. It actually ends up being more variable questions that we end up becoming surprise experts in certain variables, just because we've been doing that so much. So here's our how-to materials on data access, and there's some right here is a PDF that it's just screenshot by screenshot showing you what to do. Exactly what you're going to get in the slide deck, that explains a little bit more about why you would do something. So it's been pretty helpful and comprehensive. We have a webinar, and we also have some data gems, which are shorter tutorial videos, 5 to 7 minutes or something, on why we would use it. We're actually about to release one that gives a more specific how-to. And then clicked here is actually our data availability, where we are with what data are available right now on the site. And then it links to our transition to data ferret page on this resource page that does kind of give you more of a breakdown of, tobacco use. We don't have that supplement in there yet, but here, if you click here, here's the FTP site to the PUMS. So trying to make sure that people don't feel that they're missing data in any way. It's just that maybe in a different place as we're working on our migration. Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Oh, sounds good.
Thank you again, Kaneen. We're ending right on time, and most of you are also signed up for future sessions, which will be at the same time a week from today and 2 weeks from today. So we look forward to having you all join us again, and for different topics. And if you have questions specifically for me, I think you all have my email address, so I'd be able to help you with some of this as well.
Charles, and I also just put in the chat for everybody too, that Kaneen showed us some resources here for where you can get some videos and help. I also just put another link in the chat to everybody, our census.gov/academy. So we have that's another place that you can access all sorts of data gems for data.census.gov, MDAT, several other different topics, as well as if you're interested on any of the webinars that Kaneen or her group has done in the past or have upcoming webinars. And also just beyond data.census.gov, there's also ACS, the recent ACS release, and plenty of other good stuff. Just want to let everybody know.
That's great.